Servus Freunde, my name is Jimmy Cage and A Quiet Place was a real surprise 2 years ago. It had a very simple and distinct idea, not just perfect for a horror movie, but also a great way of enabling a very special cinema experience. There are monsters out there and those monsters can hear everything, but luckily they are also blind, so our protagonists have to be as quiet as possible. A single noise can decide over life and death, and this tension was very contagious, so much so that you could barely hear anyone in the audience crunching on their popcorn. Like most horror movies, A Quiet Place was made with a very small budget, in this case just $17 million, and it made over 340 worldwide. So it was just a matter of time until we get a sequel. Initially, director and main protagonist of the first film, John Krasinski, didn't want to come back for a second one, but now here we are. This time he's also the sole screenwriter. Luckily, the cast is back as well. Emily Blunt, Krasinski's real-life wife, as Evelyn, and her two film children Millicent Simmonds as Reagan and Noah Jupe as Marcus. Since Krasinski's character Lee died in the first one, we get kind of a substitute character with Cillian Murphy as Emmett, who turns out to be a great addition. With every sequel, especially horror sequels, and even more so the premise of A Quiet Place, you run the risk of just repeating yourself. I would say A Quiet Place Part 2 is varying its formula enough to feel like a welcome and logical continuation, but not enough for me to say that this is anything as special or exciting as the first one. I'm actually a bit torn about it. On one hand, it's good that they keep it rather small and in the vein of the first one, focusing just on these very few characters and their struggle to live through the next days after the events of the first. But on the other hand, it's almost a bit too small for me. The scope and the stakes feel very limited and familiar, and I would have liked the movie to go to some really new places. Maybe surprise us with something new about the monsters, a new development, a new improved terror. But they are exactly the same. What we do get is a pretty good and intense opening sequence that shows us day one of this whole invasion. It's a nice way to pretty much open up at the exact same place like the first film, the exact same supermarket, only this time everything is still normal, at least for a few more minutes. It's a really exciting set piece, though I found that it ends rather randomly. And then the main movie almost plays more like an epilogue to the first one. So we get the prologue and the epilogue. A pretty good prologue and a decent epilogue, but I would have liked them to go a bit bigger. Now, don't get me wrong, the first movie was also good because it was elevated by a genuine, heartfelt family dynamic. And with all of them returning, minus Krasinski, you get a similar emotional core. Though not as strong. The second film can't quite deliver the same emotional punch as the first one. When it comes to the horror and the tension, A Quiet Place Part 2 is able to put you at the edge of your seat, and there are some lovely scenes in there, but again I have to say that I expected a little bit more. Not only do we know the monsters by now, we also know the filmmaker's tricks. We know how this works. The contrast between something totally quiet and then the panic and noise when something goes wrong and the monster appears. I'm sure that people who are really into the first one will have a good time with this as well, but to be completely honest, while I appreciate the concept and direction, it's not completely for me. It's a bit too obvious how it works and it's mainly just more of the same this time around. Again, I wish there was a bit more new stuff to it. What I really enjoyed though was how both of the most dramatic sequences in the film, or actually three if you count the one at the beginning, are using parallel cutting, with our protagonist trying to survive at two different locations. It's done really effectively, and it also nicely shines a light on the younger characters and how their bravery is central to the survival of us all. When it comes to graphic violence, it's quite moderate, very much like its predecessor. And I said it in my review of the first one and I say it again, I personally would like more gruesomeness, more horror. But I also understand that that's not really this franchise. It's PG-13 and I think it's good that there's a good and also scary horror franchise for a younger audience as well. So in German I'd say, A Quiet Place Part 2 ist eine gute und konsequente Fortsetzung, bei der ich mir aber trotzdem etwas mehr Innovation und Härte versprochen hätte. Spannend und emotional ist er wieder, aber der Trick ist jetzt auch schon recht bekannt. I give A Quiet Place Part 2 7 out of 10. It's more like 6.7, but I don't do that. Alright, that's it like always. Comment below and let me know what you think about A Quiet Place Part 2. You can hit me up on Twitter, Instagram and Letterboxd simply at the Jimmy Cage. And if you enjoyed this episode, please give me a thumbs up, share, subscribe, whatever you like. And make sure you hit that bell for all I have to tell.